Hello, good morning. Now, back in the 1860s, the United States Senate was a very different place from what it is today. Arguments made on the floor were not so decorous as they are today. People really used to dig in with personal insults and name-calling just to make their point. And these were essentially the most elite, best-educated men in the country. But that didn't stop them from dipping into the gutter in a bid to smear slime on their opponents. Sound familiar? Yeah. Well, the story is told of the day President Abraham Lincoln came to the Senate in March 1861 to deliver his inaugural speech as the 16th President of the United States. He was being heckled, as usual, with all manner of insults being thrown around as he attempted to address the chamber. Now, he was doing his best to maintain his equilibrium when suddenly things got extremely personal. One of the pompous, toffee-nosed, slave-owning aristocratic senators suddenly stood up, thumbed his braces, and bellowed in a voice that carried loud and clear over the pandemonium, "Mr. Lincoln, you should not forget that your father used to make shoes for my family." The whole Senate burst into fits of convulsive laughter. Even Lincoln's own Republicans found it hilarious that the president would have nobody better than a lowly shoemaker for a father. The laughter rolled on and on while Lincoln stood frozen at the podium. Clearly, the senators thought they had made a fool of Lincoln and put him in his place. And then the president spoke. "Sir," he said, addressing the rotund little toff who had dissed his dad, "I know that my father used to make shoes for your family. And there will be many others here because he made shoes the way nobody else can. He was a creator. His shoes were not just shoes. He poured his whole soul into them." The laughter started to die down as Lincoln's high-pitched yet deeply commanding voice arrested the attention of everyone in the chamber. And he was not done yet. "I want to ask you, have you any complaint? Because as far as I know, nobody has ever complained about my father's shoes. He was a genius, a great creator, and I am proud of my father." Now, I remember reading about this and having two separate but equally important thoughts. First, it really doesn't matter what people say or even do to you. The only thing that matters is how you choose to react to it. Let them pull you down. Let them call you a failure. Let them say you can't make it. None of those insults and put-downs really matters until you start saying them to yourself. The second thing that occurred to me was about excellence. Lincoln's dad was excellent. To those silver-spooned bigots, he was a lowly cobbler, an insult to be flung in the face of his social climbing son, who they didn't see as fit to mingle with them, let alone lead them. But even these jerks could not deny that the man's shoes were the best. They could laugh at him for being a shoemaker, but they could not laugh at the shoes he made. My dear friend, I don't know what you do for a living, but I do know that if you wake up every morning and choose this channel on your TV, then you are discerning. That means you are among the best this country has to offer. Whatever you do every day, there should be nobody better at it than you. You should be so excellent at it that even your enemies will respect you for it. It's good to have dreams. It's even better to pursue those dreams. It's great to aspire to a bigger situation than where you are right now. But let me tell you the true secret of success. It is to dominate your space. Whether you're a receptionist or a CEO, whether you're a janitor or a doctor, whether you're a security guard or a head teacher, whether you sit on the throne or you clean it, your God-given mandate is to be the absolute best at what you do. You see, it's not by accident that God made you in his own image. He has dominion over the world. So you are meant to have dominion over your world. Your job is to dominate, my dear friends, to be the best. Start today. My name is Kojo Yankson and I am excellent. That's not pride. That's a promise. Good morning, Ghana.
Hi, good morning and welcome to the AM News. I am Mapito CBD. Now, Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has launched the integration of the National Health Insurance Card and the Ghana Card. The integration allows Ghana card holders to access healthcare under the health insurance scheme. According to Dr. Bawumia, this is part of government's policy to make the Ghana Card the standard identification card for all citizens in Ghana, describing it as a game changer. Judith Awutre Tando has more in this report.
Speaking at the launch of the National Health Insurance Scheme Week, the Vice President explained every citizen can link their NHIS card to the Ghana card using the *929 hash code. This, he says, will allow subscribers to renew their membership as well as access health care using the Ghana card.
In fact, there are 7 steps to link your NHIS card with your Ghana card. You go in there and dial *929 hash. You select the option 4, which is to link your Ghana card. Enter your 13-digit Ghana card PIN, which starts with GHA, the 13-digit PIN. Press send. Then you enter your 8-digit NHIS membership card. Press send. And wait for the confirmation message, and it is done.
The Vice President said government is dedicated to ensuring that all citizens are able to access health care using the Ghana card, adding that 1 month waiting period for delayed renewals and new registrations has been waived by the NHIS for this week alone.
This pilot is being launched today for the start of the NHIS week. For this week alone, the 1 month waiting period for delayed renewals and new registrations has been waived by the NHIS.
He added that as part of deepening the inclusiveness of the Ghana health system, the integration will cover procurement, patient record management, payment across providers, among others, which he believes is a game changer in the health sector.
And the scope of digitization in the health sector is enormous. It ranges from procurement to nationwide drugs inventory management, patient record management, portability of patient records across the country, to health insurance management, and billing verification and payments across providers. Our disease geography is poorly mapped. All these information gaps must be closed soonest, and we must take advantage of technology to do just that. What is key for us today is the leveraging of the Ghana card to transform our health system. This is a game changer.
Judith Awutre Tando's report for Joy News.
Away from that, some motorists who use the Accra-Tema motorway are calling on authorities to fix a portion of the stretch which is gradually eroding. They fear people will die if the affected section of the road, which is being washed away, collapses. Maxwell Agbagba has more in our Arrival Live story for today.
The slab that is supporting the bridge is off. The road, the erosion is chopping into the middle of the road, and no one is paying attention to it.
Voice of a concerned motorist in a video sent to Joy News talking about the danger on the eastbound section of the Accra-Tema motorway.
To draw the authorities' attention that we shouldn't wait for a disaster to happen before we come to save lives. This is very bad. The road is caving in. Please, the authorities should take note of this and come to the aid of the road. We are begging you. We don't want any disaster to happen before they come with excavators to save lives.
Well, this is a 19-kilometer Accra-Tema motorway stretch. Well, what you're seeing here is a big hole, and now this is eating deep into a portion of the 19-kilometer stretch here. What we've observed so far is that sometimes vehicles are forced to squeeze themselves into the other lane just to avoid this. We do not know what happens in the evening, and until this is fixed, it continues to remain danger to motorists.
It is a big pit caused by erosion around the storm drain very close to the Ashaiman underpass. Motorists who use the road tell me what started as a small hole is gradually expanding into the main road. They fear that portion of the motorway may cave in if it is not fixed. Some of them also fear vehicles may plunge into the storm drain as the railings on that portion of the road have been damaged.
My name is Wisdom.
Wisdom, okay. Wisdom what?
Wisdom Mochu.
This man uses the motorway frequently. He wants authorities to fix the problem.
This is a Shama motorway under bridge. And then this thing occurred the last heavy rain that falls the last time. So I notified this, that was 2 months ago, that the bridge starts cracking like this. So even I try my best to do a short coverage and then post it for the concern of the people. So I thank you guys that you are here now to help solve the issue. So a lot of people are not identifying this yet because you see how the hole is. It doesn't affect to the down yet. So people are not identifying yet until they get to the end before you can see that the thing is dangerous. And what is here now is dangerous. But just people cannot see because every time they are in the car passing. So we sometimes I pass here. Yeah, I've been using the road, so I know that this is what is happening. I think a lot of people too have identified. Yeah.
So what do you want to be done?
So this thing immediately they need to come and fix this thing out before they get out of hand because the next rain that will fall, it will affect again. That one is serious. Yeah.
Dennis Abani uses the Accra Tema motorway every day to deliver honey to his clients.
When I get here, I find it difficult to use the outer lane. So what I do is I'll wait and check to see if there's no car coming. Then I use the inner lane, which is not even safe for me as a rider. I have to always use the outer lane because my speed is not that of car. You see, so it's very dangerous. And then the pedestrians too, they find it difficult to use the outer lane, which is almost caving in. And I think the authorities have to work on it, and then it should be immediate, or else we'll have a situation at our hand that we'll not be able to solve.
The Ghana Highway Authority says it will comment after an assessment of the situation. Maxwell Agbagba for Joy News.
Away from that, the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology has launched Ghana's first glossary on architecture. The book, Ally to Zygomorphic, a handbook on architectural glossary, describes what architects produce and the relation to the modern-day pattern. Love FM's Emmanuel Osei reports.
In a built environment. He says the book is meant to aid architectural students and professionals acquire a basic handbook for their field of study, making clarification of indigenous architectural works possible in the country. Professor Asasi Opon shared his motive for this worthy cause.
Becoming a lecturer, for that matter, architectural educator, I realized that there was a lacuna of words when it comes to architectural vocabulary, where students are not able to explain their schemes because they don't have the right terminologies to describe them. So with this as a motivation, I decided to do a research and collect architectural terminologies, vocabularies, and put them together as a glossary, which is like a dictionary but devoted to architecture to help students and those in the built environment to have a flair of explaining their schemes and also make it understandable to the general public.
He says the impression for the title, Ally to Zygomorphic, was derived from the alphabetical order A to Z. Local words such as Edinkra and Intronum are thoroughly explained in the handbook, as well as other basic architectural terms.
And one thing that is coming in is the introduction of new words from our cultural or local terms. For example, we have intronome, and then intronome traditionally is the lobby in a house. We believe that if somebody is coming into the house with some bad spirit, the intronome is the one that holds that kind of spirit. If you bring it to modern era scientifically, it allows for hygiene.
Pro-Vice Chancellor of KNUST, Professor Ellis Owusu-Dabo, was full of praise for the author.
the brilliant, this can only come from Kenya University. Boy, this is so beautiful. It's so beautiful. It's coming from the University Student Press. Well done. And my colleague and friend, well done. This is really a mark of excellence.
Several donors and partners took copies of Ali to Zygomorphic and donated to their university libraries. Free copies were also given to people who could answer some questions on architecture. Professor Asasi Opon says he intends writing a sequel which will touch on Adinkra symbology, space syntax, and architecture. Reporting for Joy News, Emmanuel Osei, Kumasi.
And in our last story, the Forestry Commission says timber firms involved in forest plantation and preservation remain critical, at least in restoring depleted forests. But that's how we end
the firms have between them.
And that's how we end the AM News on the AM Show.
Welcome to the news review portion of the AM show. It's always a great pleasure to dig into the papers, and we're going to do exactly that. And now I have the Finder newspaper, the Ghanaian Times, the Ghanaian Publisher, the Daily Statesman, the Daily Post, the Catalyst, among others. What do you have, Mordi?
Oh, Your Excellency, wise and brave Benjamin Akako. I'll do the Daily Graphic, the Chronicle, the Daily Guide, the Hawk. There's one more paper. The Daily Searchlights.
Wait, are you challenging me to come and, have any discourse with you to determine whether or not I am culpable in any way?
Aren't we doing something except that you don't have your two lawyers?
Interesting times. Anyway, that is the story I will start with. But let's check out first what the Daily Graphic, that's a very interesting headline there.
Yes, rejected ballots, potential third force. It's a big question on the front page of the Daily Graphic newspaper. You see, that's put in graphics beautifully, but it's not funny. It says, in spite of the country's globally acclaimed democratic credentials, the issue of rejected ballots during elections remains a challenge. It even appears that without adequate education, going into the December 7 elections, the situation may repeat itself. Rejected ballots come about when some voters do not do things right or simply get confused with the voting process, thereby wasting the most sought after electoral asset, the ballots. So basically, that's what the paper is highlighting today on the front page of their paper, which is absolutely very important. Hopefully we can share a bit more with you in the course of our review. Also, security agencies charged to enforce COVID-19 protocols. Election years record higher road fatalities according to road safety statistics. And then Ministry of Business Development profile in the paper today. That's what's in the center spread. Is talking about its success story so far. On the back page, though, former UN physician team developed snake anti-venom for Africa. A physician who was formerly with the United Nations, Dr. Akshay Rath, has led a team of research scientists to manufacture a snake anti-venom purposely for the African continent. It was manufactured this year. It's known as Befreak 10, and according to Dr. Rath, it was produced using venom from snakes which are home to Africa. And then the final one on the back page, court discharges 3 more alleged secessionists. It says an Accra Circuit Court has discharged 3 more persons alleged to have participated in activities aimed at seceding parts of the Volta region from Ghana. The suspect, the paper publishes their name and says the court, presided over by Rosemond Ba Tosu, had earlier discharged 22 of the accused persons who belonged to another set of suspects who had been arraigned. The court discharged the 3 yesterday after the prosecution presented a new charge sheet that excluded them from a new list that contained the names of 24 accused persons. There's more to the story you can read on, but for now, that's it for the graphic.
Let's move on to the Finder newspaper now. And here's what they found. Coronavirus cases rising due to non-wearing of masks. That's according to the Ghana Health Service. So something we all ought to take stock of. And look at us in the studio. We're masked up. We're trying to do the right thing. So, hey, let's all do this together, because if you get it, I could get it. If I get it, you could get it. Then Amidou Mahama lock horns, and this trade of remarks, it's the sparring session, right? Anyway, we'll delve a bit into that story. I know we'll definitely look at it because many of the papers capture it, and that's over the €5 million Airbus bribery scandal. Ghana card holders can now use it to access NHIS. I've been speaking to a few people out there, and some would tell you, Mama V, I don't have the Ghana card, or I don't have the NHIS card, or some don't even have either of them. This would be a good time to actually get at least one so you can move forward. But if you have the two, then you can just synchronize them and things become easier. School feeding program pays 280 million Ghana cedi arrears. That's according to the national coordinator. Then Akufo-Addo's industrialization agenda unmatched in Fourth Republic. That's what the NPP is saying. But the story also interested me on page 5. Cassava processing factory for Keta progressing. That's a very interesting development there. That's in the Chiame Doveme area. And the factory is a partnership between the Keta Municipal Assembly and the investing company Homeku Engineers and Planners. So that's it with the Finder newspaper. Let's move on to the next one.
Yes, the Chronicle for me. Front page of the Chronicle says, Mr. Wise and Brave, come and meet me. Amidou also dares Mahama. And then we have put 76, 1 district, 1 factory in operation, says Nana Kumia, speaking for the NPP. Government secures 170 million euros to open bank. And then NHIS and Ghana cards integrated. So basically, front page headlines, the Chronicle newspaper. On the back page, they've got some sports stories. Partey skips Ghana duty as he awaits thigh injury scan. I guess the biggest for me. And then 2021 AFCON qualifiers. Ghana begins camping ahead of Sudan clash.
So when you go to the Ghanaian Times newspaper, one of the stories captured there, debt owed contractors, government pays 800 million Ghana cedis for completed Get Fund projects. Then Ghana Oil Gas awards 41 COIS personalities on it. There's also this one when it comes to the health setup. Ghana Health Service to set up COVID-19 sample collection centers across the country. Dr. Patrick Kumabwaje, Director General of the GHS, speaking there. And MacDan hails government's decision to absorb electricity bills of citizens and industries. So those are some interesting headlines from the Ghanaian Times newspaper. When you go to the back page, it says 3-day green economy development meeting underway in Accra. And how about this one? UNFPA to end preventable maternal deaths and gender-based violence. That's it for the Ghanaian Times newspaper this morning.
Let's get into the Daily Guide. Front page of the Daily Guide says, Amidou dares Mahama on the Airbus scandal. Don't compare NDC to Biden. Ghana card to replace NHIS card. You can't stop December polls. Court sacks Jataba. More factories coming, according to the NPP. And then ex-Nana aide Krapa donate to Uti NPP. That's what you find on the front page of the Daily Guide newspaper.
The Daily Statesman this morning says, First Lady urges Ningo Prampram to consider NPP MP. You know, that has been a stronghold of the NDC for quite a while, since the days of E.T. Mensah. Well, Trump's one-term presidency has useful lessons for Mahama. You'll find out who exactly is saying that. Now, Akufo-Addo's industrialization effort unmatched. That's according to the NPP. You are not worth the vote, Amidou replies Mahama over Airbus, quote, stupidity, unquote, attack. So that is it for the Daily Statesman newspaper. I think I'll pick a story from here.
Okay, let me just run through the Hawk. and the Daily Searchlight. Just what's on the front page. Is it game over for Trump? Biden is projected winner of election, while Trump insists election is far from over. World leaders are rushing to congratulate Biden. Just a wrap of what's happening with the U.S. elections occupies the banner headline of the Hawk newspaper. It also says, Nkranza South campaign boosted as Framers Aid donates to constituency. And then moving, UESD, I've got to get the full name of this, is the University of Environmental and Sustainable Development from Afram Plains to Achim Abuakwa, which says to your homeland unfair, according to former President Mahama. So that's how the front page looks like. On the back, NCCE urged EC to publish 30,000 names deleted from voters' register. It says the National Commission for Civic Education has called on the Electoral Commission to publish the details of over 30,000 voters whose names were deleted from the voters' register for breaching registration regulation. The move, according to the NCCE, will help avoid chaos on election day. And then EC to create new constituency for Oti is another story on the back page of the Hawk.
Let's do the Ghanaian Publisher. And minority leader demands protection of experienced MPs from people with fat wallets. So I guess it's not a majority thing. It's a parliamentary thing. And the minority leader, Haruna Idrisu, has actually joined lamentations about the monetization of the country's democracy by people with fat wallets. This development, he said, is a serious threat to Ghana's growing democracy, but particularly to the House of Parliament as a third arm of government. He expressed concern in his closing remarks when Parliament rose sine die last Saturday, stressing the need for political parties to accept necessary reforms to protect experienced members of Parliament. And quite an interesting development, because per our laws, it is he who wins or she who wins goes to Parliament. But now the bit about, oh, you've been there for 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, and you're playing this role and you have institutional memory, and so you should be protected in a way. Mama V, protection?
No.
Isn't that what we've been criticizing when it comes to, these same big parties and all of that? Famously or infamously, the majority leader and some others have come under the same, bit, and people were talking about protection or otherwise. Here we are again. Now the minority is also jumping into the fray. Herbert Kwapa donates 50 motorbikes to a TMPP. You're not worth our vote, Amidu to Mahama. You can now access, so this story I've done. Kwadwo Asamoah, the shoemaker, praises Adwoa Safo for bringing life back to his business. It's a wrap for the Ghanaian Publisher.
I'm done, so you can go ahead with the...
then let me do, actually, the catalyst this morning. Police widows cry out, we are suffering. And government is about common sense, JM to Kufuor. And people will struggle to get 45% at the December polls. That is Elvis Efrie Ankra. The Daily Post talks about the Ghana Business Awards and how Dr. Joseph Siawe Japong has been named Entrepreneur of the Decade. And this final one, EC, Judiciary and Parliament must learn from U.S. elections, according to former President John Dramani Mahama. Shall we begin?
Yes.
Right, so let me start on a bit of a lamenting note, if I may put it, and I'll begin with the Catalyst newspaper. Police widows cry out. The widows of police officers who died in the course of active service have expressed their challenges and frustrations regarding their means of survival in the absence of their departed husbands. The widows made known their challenges and frustrations in the 2020 Police Memorial Day event organized by the Ghana Police Service in honor of the fallen officers at the National Police Training School in Tesano, Accra. The reason I'm bringing this up, we often, complain about the poor delivery when it comes to our police officers, that a lot of them are not up to scratch, that they don't deliver what we expect as a people. But I guess sometimes too, there are those other constraints about what they get at the end of the month, and skills acquisition, even fitting for the work that they have to do and all of that, even in court. But of course, single spine affected them. If you remember from way back, they've been beneficiaries of some of these, but it appears it may not necessarily be enough. But especially with these widows whose husbands, unfortunately, have fallen this year. My question is, what mechanisms are in place beyond maybe the pension schemes and all of that they might have been on? What mechanisms are in place to protect the interests of these families? Because in a nutshell, that is what the widows are crying out for. So a big call there, and we'll see how the police service and maybe government as a whole, the executive, will respond to that one. So that's it for my first story.
I wanted us to talk about the rejected ballots.
Most definitely.
The Daily Graphics is asking if it's a potential third force, and it talks about the fact that since Ghana's return to multi-party democracy in 1992, rejected ballots have seen swings in every election. So some 149,813 rejected ballots were recorded in 1992. There were 111,108 in 1996, 119,372 in 2000, before the figure surged to 188,123 in 2004. So that's what the graph, if we bring back the front page of the Daily Graphic on the screen, you would see it comes with the figures and the years.
But when you look at 2012, pretty disturbing. Look at the figure there.
Yes, that's
is that
really
251,000?
251,720. And then, of course, in 2016, it came down, but still very high because the figure, 2016 figure is 167,349. So very important question the paper is asking, very legitimate, considering how we've come. And you would think that we would actually be going down steadily.
When I looked at the figures, that's exactly what I was thinking. So what we experienced in the last election is pretty much what we saw in 1992, if you look at the proximity of the figures. And that also means, because you put together what the smaller parties get, and even juxtapose that with the prediction made by Ben Efson that this year, all of them put together will not even get 4%. And you look at the percentages we are chalking here, indeed, that is a third force. And if we can eliminate that, who knows how these are affecting, even whom we get to call Mr. President? Who knows? Or even our parliamentarians. So a serious matter we ought to look at. But in looking at it, I ask myself, has enough education been done? By the Electoral Commission, by the National Commission for Civic Education and all of that? And are we, the people, even receptive enough to the education? That's another
I think we have to, when the ballots, because they're still printing the ballots, right? Because there has to be that specific part of the education where you use the ballot paper to do the education, so that you know that if you're voting for this person, that's where, the prints must go to. Otherwise, it would be rejected because you voted for two persons and you can't vote for two, and you would have wasted your vote.
Do you know that there are people who may even be thinking that, look, once I place my thumb here and it's maybe there's a smudge or something, oh, it's good to go. I don't even know that I have the right to request, a different, ballot to vote and all of that. Some people may think, oh, it's all right, they'll see it, only for you to realize that, well, you will not know, but in the end, your ballot may not even be counted among the many. So a lot more education, I think, is needed on that subject.
Okay, yeah, so I guess that's what we are highlighting. That's the difference between false ballots and rejected ballots. Rejected ballots will not count. If it's false, like the way you describe it, then it can be changed for you.
Anyway, so this one on page 3, you are not worth our vote, Amidu tells Mahama. Special Prosecutor Amidu says former President Mahama's response to the Airbus comment in the Ejapa report is a clear indication of his lack of appreciation of issues of security and intelligence. He stated that if Mahama did not understand why he, Amidu, had to put his investigations on the Airbus scandal on hold, then he did not deserve to be voted for as president. So in a nutshell, Amidu saying this is a national security matter. And what interests me, though, Amidu seems to be coaxing the former president. He says, if you're man enough, oh, ye wise and brave former president, if you're man enough, braha, come closer and let's discourse on this matter. And let's see whether you'll still have that smirk on your face, so to speak, when we're done. But my only worry here is, if I keep saying, Corruption, no longer a misdemeanor, a felony. Comes with stiffer punishment. Corruption is making our country bleed. If you feel the former president has engaged in corruption, dabbled in any activity that is inimical to, the financial health of the state, what do you do? Are you going to say, is Martin Amidu saying if someone is corrupt and the person doesn't, come forth, public official and all of that, he can't wade into the matter and do what ought to be done? Then in that case, I'll be asking myself, what exactly is the use of the office again? The Special Prosecutor's Office? I'm just asking, I'm just being blunt. I'm sure a lot of you are thinking same. And this is where I'll throw the ball to Mama V, whom I know will just...
I would just say that I don't think that this is
I don't get it.
I don't think it's healthy for us.
I don't get it.
Too much back and forth for me, really.
And I beg to... So assuming, I keep making this assumption, assuming he does become president, are you now going to pursue him with the case?
Oh, he said it in his very last sentence of that 2-page piece that he released yesterday. And he says, I just want to quickly read. This is towards the end. My friendship with the Minister for Finance never stopped me from making a professional assessment on the conduct of the Ministry of Finance. In the 64-page Ejapa assessment report, I have no brother or friend when it comes to my crusade against preventing corruption and fighting corruption. Ghana first always. So I guess with that said, it really doesn't matter if the former president becomes president and he's still the special prosecutor. He'll still go ahead and do his work.
I think it would serve the people's purpose better if you could prevent a problem of this nature rather than wait for a sore to fester before you try to heal it, because then it might be gangrenous and you might have to chop it off, and that might be detrimental.
Okay, let's do myjoyonline.com. And this is, okay, so here we go. I was just going to explain a little bit about the sports ballots and the rejected ballots and the things that constitute rejected ballots, since we've touched on it. But on our page, Ben, would you like to take us through?
So My Joy Online, at least this first one, our delusion about defeating COVID-19 got the best of us. That's according to the Ghana Medical Association. They're saying that we became happy too little too soon, and that has got us some problems. Amidu is also trending there. Wise and brave Mahama show up to, so I interrogate you. Amidu Dares, NDC presidential candidate. COVID-19 cases will keep increasing without a vaccine. That's according to a virologist getting into that one. Again, on COVID-19, we can't blame surge in active COVID-19 cases on reopening of air borders. That's according to CDD Ghana. And if you listen to Mr. President just a few days ago, he actually indicated that at Kotoka, if you look at the numbers, then it's just a pittance, a drop in the bucket, basically. Then, no leader in Ghana's Fourth Republic can compare to Akufo-Addo in industrialization. That's according to the NPP. And maybe this one I'll do for now. That's the final one. Akufo-Addo will be one-term president, just like Trump, Ofosu-Ampofo, of the NDC, saying that. So that's it for My Joy Online this morning. Well, that's how we wrap it up as far as the news review is concerned. Sports comes your way next. Look forward to that one on the AM Show. Stay tuned.
Let's stick with Asante Kotoko, where it would be a different atmosphere when the season does start, because for the first time in a long while, we did see a little bit of it in the latter stages of the truncated league last season. But Asante Kotoko would not be playing at the Kumasi, that's the Baba Yara Sports Stadium, and that's because the stadium is undergoing renovation. So due to that, Kotoko would be in Accra playing at the Accra Sports Stadium. Well, my colleague from our sister stations, Love FM, that's Kelvin Owusu-Ansah, has been at the Baba Yara Sports Stadium, and he's been talking to people about the impact of Kotoko not playing, specifically for the fans and the businesses.
Ahead of the new Ghana Premier League season, the Barbara Sports Stadium is still under renovation works. This will mean that clubs who normally use the facility for their Premier League home games will be missing out on using the facility. The biggest sufferer of this would be Kumasi Asante Kotoko, who ideally accrue most numbers on match days. Not just that the fans will be missing out on the Porcupines not playing at the Barbara Sports Stadium. This would mean a lot to most businesses around. Economic activities get to a boom when Kotoko play at the Barbara Sports Stadium. Let's have a quick interaction with the fans as well as the businesses around on what void this absence of Kotoko from Kumasi, specifically the Barbara Sports Stadium, would have on every single aspect of business in and around the stadium.
It's a blow to you all, not only Vanyopap, all the past in Kumasi. Because when Kotoko play, then it's a victory. We are all enjoy. So they need to, back up and do things quick for us so that we too can enjoy the election.
I'm losing a lot because when there is activity going on at the stadium, sales keeps on improving. But since there is no activity going on at the stadium, there is no sales coming a lot.
One of the benefactors of this situation on match days when Kotoko used the Barbara Sports Stadium are the Anloga Junction taxi drivers. It is just about 5 minutes drive to the Barbara Sports Stadium for fans to troop in to watch games. The absence of the team here would definitely have a toll on their economic boom and revenue generated on match days.
Kita cars almost be 90 cars for freeway so. Nita kono ko bobo mbia no park no move kama. Am drivers in yeska. But say kono ko ni ombo ho Kumasi na. Am business no be basa because two lockdown in the money den enkoye say amen. It's like any that's on say kono ko we bie na ya den. E be born na kono ko abohom na den so yeska abina na. But so far na kono ko odo home na kwa akra no. Am ye nyama friends say bad influence we admire den yeah no afi we ni ho on Christmas by the bidra edwuma move kakra di amehen
higher papa kan ye taxi drivers ye Kotoko fan ye support Kotoko say Kotoko ni ha ye nidi say ye kuta fans ye supporters number for car e be for dropping e be for car e be overload kra na ya do Amoko stadium ti ye nya kakra gu ye butum
say ba say Kotoko for bobo Kumasi ya na ebo aye edwuma because supporters in free for recruit go from near there. Abefa car ha at the stadium. Say na there na boy but say see na o free ha na there. At least abema yes business no akofom kakra.
And the fans would be missing out on watching their darling club in Kumasi.
If Kotoko is playing their home city, their home grounds, there is some joy in our hearts. And people troops to the stadium. So this one we are going to sit at the back of the television and watch them.
The absence of Kumasi Asante Kotoko from the Barbara Sports Stadium would definitely affect businesses in and around the stadium, and especially in Kumasi. The connection and the bond, the sort of chemistry the fans have with the team would definitely be missed, and it affects their general plan for match days. My name is Kelvin Owusu-Ansah for Joy Sports.
Hello, welcome to the talk segment of our show, AM Talk, where we talk about some of the big happenings in our country. Today, quickly, let me introduce two of our members of parliament joining us via Zoom for this conversation. First is Alhassan Suhuyini, he's Member of Parliament for Tamale North. A very good morning to you, if you can hear me. Okay, also joining us is Andrew Kofi Ejapa-Mensah, MP for Sekondi constituency in the Western region. Good morning to you, Mr. Ejapa-Mensah.
Good morning, Mamari. How are you?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm well, but great.
Okay.
So, good.
Let me try and see if Alhassan Suhuyini can hear me now. Hello, good morning to you. Mr. Suhuyini? Okay, he isn't with us yet, but I can start with you, Mr. Ejapa-Mensah. You joined the 7th Parliament. In fact, both of you joined the 7th Parliament So as we're beginning to wrap up things, I want to ask how the experience has been for you.
Mamadi, was the question directed at me?
Yes, sir.
You're not very clear, so I would please ask that.
Okay, so let's do it again. I was just reminding our viewers that you joined the 7th Parliament. That's now taking a break for the elections. So just for you to share your experience being in this Parliament.
Well, let me say good morning to our cherished viewers, to your good self and my very good friend, Al-Hassan. 7th Parliament. I guess it's been exciting. It's been pretty eventful. I've gotten to learn new things. I've gotten to make new friends. Of course, Al-Hassan Suhuyini and I did not know each other before we went to Parliament. You know, listening to him on radio was one of my most disliked persons, together with Sam George and co.
Did you say disliked persons?
We've grown to become good friends. Very, very, very good friends, if you ask me. And I guess that the work in Parliament itself has been an eye-opener, participating in shaping policy, making laws, contributing to debates was pretty good. I guess that if you look at it from the lenses of history, then clearly it gives you some joy that when the annals of the history of our country is written post you, then your name would be, ingrained somewhere with some contribution that you made in building our nation. And so, by and large, I guess that it's not something that I've regretted, except that sometimes when the constituency pressure mounts and the allegations that are obviously unfounded, when your name resembles another name that is engaged in another transaction and it's attributed to your person, it gets to you sometimes, because we're all human, and so, but beyond that, I guess that it's been a worthwhile experience.
Have you been personally linked?
That the good people of Secondary.
I was just going to ask, have you been personally linked because your name is Ejapa to the Ejapa royalties deal?
Absolutely. You hear the accusations on social media, and even on the day that we were debating the transaction, Honorable Muntaka, the minority chief whip, deliberately raised the point of order and suggested to the speaker to inquire from me whether I had any relationship to the transaction. But of course, I mean, that obviously is not the case. And so sometimes you just have to take it in your stride, knowing that, hey, in this game, every attempt to be made to, break you some way, somehow. And so you just have to keep your focus and do what you have to do.
Let's see if Al-Hassan Suhuyini can hear me now, Member of Parliament for Tamale North. A very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mama V. I can hear you. Thank you very much. And good morning to my very good friend, Andrew.
He said he didn't like you very much when you were on radio, but you guys have become friends now that you're in Parliament.
Mama V, it doesn't come to me as a surprise at all. I mean, one of the difficult, things I faced when I went to Parliament was the dislike of my previous role as a host on a radio station that the NPP hardly listened to because, obviously, like you said, they didn't like the station. And so many of their notions about those of us who worked there were based on hearsay and reported speeches. And so it was very difficult, having to deal with people who had a prejudiced mind against you, not based on what they really have listened to or actually interacted with you upon, but just based on the politics and propaganda, if I may say. But over the period, I mean, we have come to know ourselves better. And I will say that it's been an exciting learning experience. And we're looking forward to more days and years in the House. I wish my brother the very best of luck, even as my party works very hard, to take the seat from him. I still wish him the very best of luck. I'll be happy if we win it, but I'll miss him if he's not in the next parliament. But I think that we are all looking forward to many more, years in the House to see how we can collaborate and work together. Disagree when we have to, and agree when we have to. All in the interest of contributing our quota to the betterment of this country. I mean, we are not going to be here forever. Some people were here before us, others will also come after us. And so it's important that as we have this opportunity, we focus more on also doing the very best that we can to improving things and not leaving them worse than we came to meet. I think that it's been an exciting learning experience for many of us who were first-timers, and especially considering the imbalance in the numbers between the majority and the minority. I mean, this is the first time, maybe I will say after 96, this may be the first time that you have an absolute, something that seemed like an absolute majority, in the House. And so it was quite difficult for us in the minority to be able to be heard, even though it is said that in a democracy, the minority will always have their say and the majority will have their way. But when the numbers are so skewed in the manner that it is skewed in this 7th Parliament, even if you don't take minority, you will not be heard. If you don't take your time as a minority, you will not be heard. And so we had to struggle to be heard, to make the points that we had to make, sometimes forcefully, and through the magnanimity of some of the members of the majority, I'm sure that we were able to chalk a number of success, and also through our own hard work, we're able to chalk a number of success. And I must commend the media also for, supporting some of our causes. I wish they had done more, but we cannot fail to acknowledge the fact that they supported some of our causes and made it easier for us to be heard. And I just pray that the next parliament will be better in terms of quality, in terms of numbers on our side, and in terms of, the whole parliamentary practice. It's going to be better. It's my hope and prayer that it's going to be better.
I have to ask, this parliament is not entirely closed because you're going to be back after the 7th December polls. But the Electoral Commission appeared before Parliament on Saturday. I want us to spend a bit of time talking about her presentation. This was a roadmap for peace, for a peaceful, credible, and transparent election. So I wonder if there are any reservations about what the chairperson of the Electoral Commission presented to Parliament. And I'll start with you, Alhassan Suhuyini, on this, because you're obviously with the minority.
Well, before that, on a lighter note, my brother and friend was complaining about the JAPA deal and how it is associated with his name. I say that it's only what do you call failure that's an orphan. Everybody would like something that is glittering and successful to be associated with his or her name. So if he's not too happy that it's associated with his name, there may be question marks there. But I was actually surprised, and if he heard me on the floor of the House on that day, that he was the person to second the motion when it was moved on the floor. I thought it was not politically strategic on his part, given the fact that, his name was closely linked, not by way of action, but just by way of, the destiny that he was named the JAPA.
But Alhassan, I mean, you and I know that I do not hold intellectual property rights over the name JAPA.
No, but what I'm saying is that if you had me on the floor, if you had me on the floor the day, when you were on your feet to second the motion, I thought it was political.
I heard you loud and clear.
Yes, I thought it was not strategic for you because it was too easy for any mischief maker to link you to the JAPA.
Well, the facts are the facts. You get what I mean? And I strongly believed in the proposition that had been submitted by government
at the time.
And I still strongly believe in it. Okay? that the monetization of our mineral royalties was going to inure to the benefit of our country. And so...
No doubt. Yes. I think it's a position that we all share, that it is good that we monetize, the mineral royalties that we can. But the process and the vehicle that is used for the monetization is what has raised these questions. And I think that somehow the special prosecutor's letter is still in circulation and we may all have to study it. But let me answer your question, Mama V, on the electoral commissioner. I first of all was shocked to hear her suggest that in 2020, nobody, maybe at the commission, expected COVID. And so there were no preparations as far as the activities of the Electoral Commission was concerned to deal with a possible outbreak of COVID. I was shocked when I heard that from her because, in fact, there's a reason why COVID is called COVID-19. I mean, by the latter part of 2019, the world knew that this virus was not going to be contained easily. And so anybody who was planning anybody who had activities in 2020 should have at least known that COVID, is a possibility. So that was my first, shock when she addressed Parliament and made the indication that they did not make any plans. They had no anticipation whatsoever that COVID was going to be a question to deal with in 2020. Then fast forward, you realize that I'm sure maybe based on that very naive preparation towards the elections of 2020, we have had to be stampeded to take decisions and actions that have left our electoral process seem like we are amateurs. In fact, we have been doing this since 1992. But if you look at the calendar and the activities that we are having to undertake this year before the elections, we don't seem like a mature democracy. We look like we are doing this for the first time. Even as we speak, we do not have complete registers, yet we have filed as candidates to, stand elections.
But Mr. Sihine, isn't the process still ongoing because they're still printing the ballot papers?
That's the point I'm making. I am saying that in the past, we had our T's and I's.
Unfortunately, I think the connection there has gone bad. Alhassan Sihine talking, but let me just cross over and come to you, Andrew Ejapa-Mensah, on the EC's presentation to Parliament. Do you also have issues? But even before you go there, the Electoral Commissioner talked about the parties being given soft copies of the register. Do you have it as a party?
Well, I'm sure that the leadership of my party has it, and the constituency party would also have it. Of course, you know that we've been in Parliament until last Saturday. So in the week that the Electoral Commissioner was addressing Parliament on the Saturday, where she indicated that some soft copies had been made available to the party, I hadn't been to the constituency. So, of course, we have a team that is working on matters like that. Because if you do not delegate some of these things, you get overwhelmed. So, but whatever it is, Mama, if you check the records, okay, you would notice that in 2012, when the new biometric register was done, as of the time that we were filing our nominations, the final register was not ready. All the issues that our friends in the NDC have raised in 2020, you look in the statement that was issued by then chairman of the New Patriotic Party, Jacob Echebilamte, regarding the exhibition and issues that led Mr. Mahama to suspend his campaign were all articulated in 2012. And so to suggest that somebody is behaving amateurish because some of these things, we've held elections over and over and over again. And so, you know, because of that, incidents like this happening today, when in fact, it is clear that when new registers are compiled, it takes a little bit of time for it to be finalized. I really do not see what the issue of our friends in the NDC is. I was satisfied with the presentation that the Electoral Commissioner made. I wasn't surprised and shocked like my friend Al-Hassan regarding COVID. Because Mamabi, you and I all live in this country. We know that, yes, subsequently, we got to all know that this virus had been seen in Wuhan, but it was not on the scale that became what it was to the point of it being declared a global pandemic in 2020. Almighty America and almighty Europe, all the advanced countries were caught off guard. The Electoral Commission could not, under any circumstances, have known in 2019, when they were drawing up their timetable for 2020, that this global pandemic was going to occur. And so I wonder really what the point that my friends are making. Look, right from April 2019, when the Electoral Commission indicated that there was going to be a new biometric register and all that, that's when the noises began. We all heard the tape that my good friend Elvis Ifri-Yankra made that went viral, and the kind of comments, that's what was on there. And subsequently, the posture of the NDC, they opposed every activity that the Electoral Commission had outlined relative to the compilation of a new register. But we are where we are. The registration has been successfully completed. All the ugly noises that were made essentially came to naught. An exhibition has taken place around the same time that an exhibition took place in 2012. And we are on course to hold an election. I am only hoping that we all approach this election with the peace that we all deserve as a people. Take it as not being an activity that is a do or die one, that would allow the good people of this country to choose who their leadership would be in 2020. Okay. And whatever the outcome is, we will accept it and move forward together as one people, because the distinction that people will have to make, is pretty obvious to me. And I guess that the good people of Ghana will do the needful on 7 December. And we should assure them that we as political actors would at all times be peace-abiding, will be law-abiding, we would seek the best interests of Ghanaians, and that the outcome of the election will be accepted by all of us, so that, of course, if we do not even accept it, that will not degenerate into violence, that will use legal means to vindicate our position rather than violence, because, Mavi, this is the only country that we have. And I think that we ought to do whatever it takes to protect its integrity, so that going forward, we can all together build a country for our next generation.
Okay, great. We've just lost Al-Hassan Suhuyini there. We're still trying to establish the connection. Yeah. So, you're there. Okay, now good to have you back.
Yeah.
Okay, so you didn't quite make your point, but I just want to ask you, those soft copies that the Electoral Commissioner was talking about, do you have it as a party, the NDC?
Well, like my friend said, I'm also, I've been away from the constituency for, I think, about 4 or 5 days now. The address was just on Saturday. So we're told that we could find some of the, the register for the special voters, for example, online. That's what I've been working on with my team. We did find them online. But you see, it doesn't take away the point that I made earlier about us approaching this election as if we're amateurs. I mean, things that should have been done long before now, if they are now being done, it does not speak well of us to justify it with 2012 experience, because after 2012, we all came together. In fact, political parties and civil society organizations came together to agree that certain things needed not to be done in an election year, because it adds to the tension, it makes preparation more difficult. And so for us to repeat the same things and justify them because they happened in 2012 seem like we are not learning from our past and our experiences. So the point that has been made, and anybody who has been an election observer over the period will tell you that our approach to this election has appeared more ad hoc than any other election that we have had in the past, especially coming from activities outlined by the Electoral Commission. And so I just think that we have to continue to pray for, God's grace and also be vigilant, in every way possible, whether you are a voter, whether you are an activist, or just a Ghanaian who wants the best for this country. Because you see, there is a saying in Dagbani that blood spilled from the head eventually touches the neck. So if you are just a Ghanaian who is concerned about the peace of this country, so that you can go about your business and your life in a very peaceful manner, there's a need for you to also show some vigilance, exhibit some vigilance as far as the process is concerned, so that we can all safeguard the process to give us an outcome that will be very difficult for anybody to challenge and use as basis to create confusion. So it is important that even as we express our misgivings about the way the new electoral commissioners have handled this year's election, it is important that we remain prayerful and vigilant at all times, so that the outcome will serve the interest of this country and all Ghanaians.
Okay, just a minute for the two of you on the call by the NCCE that the multiple and exceptions lists that the Electoral Commissioner talked about, the over 30,000 voters on that list, should be made available to the public. I don't know what your take on it is, or what you said to the Electoral Commission if you had the opportunity to say something to the EC when the Commissioner came to Parliament on Saturday.
Well, we demanded that it be made public. We raised issues with it because as we speak, it is even very difficult to tell who is on that list. Mama B, you may just be on that list without knowing, because we're told by the Electoral Commissioner that they have tried calling some of them. They haven't been successful at reaching them. We do not even understand the basis upon which such people were put on that list. Because, I mean, the whole process has just been that chaotic. I mean, the explanation that some people were registered offline and so they could not be captured on the register,
so let me,
they will be allowed to go.
Let me supply a little bit of explanation. They've explained that some of them engaged in multiple registration, others various illegal practices, including underage voting and voting by non-Ghanaians.
That's the point I'm making. So these are various ways through which one could be on that register. So it is not too clear what the process was to get them on this register, on this list of people who may not be allowed to register. As for registering as an underage person or a non-Ghanaian, there are processes involved. And some of these processes that have been used have led to situations where people proved that they were indeed Ghanaians and they were entitled to register. And so they registered and they were indeed of voting age. And so the Electoral Commissioner or the Electoral Commission was wrong to have suggested that they are not, eligible to register. So it tells you that the position of the Electoral Commission as far as the eligibility of a voter is concerned is not sacrosanct. It is subject to challenge, and some of the challenges in the past have proven to be the right position. So it is not just enough for the Electoral Commission to compile this list and tell us this is the reason why they have compiled the list without any proof that those people have come to challenge the reasons and have not been able to overturn those reasons. And I'm saying we are, in the situation that we are in because of the amateurish way that we have approached this election. But we have gone past that. And that is why I'm saying that it will require vigilance, it will require prayer for us to ensure that the outcome in the end still serves all of us.
Okay. Mr. Japamesa.
That we can still focus on the very important things that we do.
Okay, great. Japamesa, this list should be made public.
Yes, I always support any call for transparency. And so if the EC, per their own indication, have a certain list that they classify as exceptions list, it may be useful to put it out there so that people can go and verify whether their names are on there or not. But of course, I guess that was the whole essence of the exhibition exercise, to afford people an opportunity to make a determination whether their name was not on the register. If there were some errors that were contained on there, and to afford them an opportunity to make a case why their name ought to be on there, or to correct whatever corrections that they needed to effect. You see, this needless suspicion that the EC is doing something that is intended to disenfranchise others ought to be nipped in the bud, because look, it doesn't help the conversation. Alassane Suhuyini, you and I, we've engaged in an election. We know how elections are won at the polling stations. I'm sure you are training your agents as we speak, because I am. And the results at every polling station, because of the Abu Ramadan cases, would be posted there at the police station.
Yeah, but Mr. Japamesa, if your name is not on the list, you can't even go through the process that you're talking about.
No, I agree. But so that's why I agreed with you that if the list ought to be made public, by all means, so that people, the 30,000 or so odd people whose names have been deleted from the main register because of some infraction or the other, can't get to know that their names are not on there before Elections Day. I agree. But I'm saying that exceptions list, multiple register list, is not new. Okay? And so let it not be said that the Electoral Commission of today has introduced something new into our electoral process that is intended to disenfranchise others. Go back to 2012, all the times that we've done the voters register, whether there were no exceptions lists that were compiled. Because when you put the data together and people have effected multiple registrations, those names will be identified. Okay? And there are sanctions that are attached to the infractions on electoral rules.
Okay. I didn't want us to spend all the time on this. I didn't want us to spend all the time on this matter because there's the special prosecutor's case that I want to bounce off you, because yesterday the special prosecutor Martin Amidu released a 2-page document where he responds to the former president and flag bearer of the NDC's candidate going into this election. I want us, first of all, to take a listen to the former president, and then we'll come back with what the special prosecutor had to say yesterday.
And they knew that Ejapa was going to be discussed today. Because he was a coward, and he knew that they were going to discuss Ejapa, so put a paragraph on Airbus to equalize the discussion. I mean, what stupidity is this? You know, because you are investigating Ejapa, present a report on Ejapa. Why? Because you know Ejapa is going to be discussed. You've indicted the president's cousin as finance minister, and you're afraid that you are presenting only a report on Ejapa. So in the Ejapa report, put some other reports that balance the equation. I thought he was man enough. Come out. The point is, you say I'm the leader of a political party. I say, if you have a legal basis for investigating me, go ahead and investigate me. If you have a legal basis for investigating me, go ahead and investigate me. There's been a DPA, a deferred protection agreement. You're not a party to it. You don't know who are involved in it. They've identified some people in it. You don't have an authenticated agreement from SFO or from whoever is involved in it. And you say, I surmise that government official one is so. Somebody is so. On what legal basis are you proceeding? But you see, the thing is, his office is important because the investigation they did on Ejapa is not a surprise. I said it this morning. We knew already that it was vitiated with corruption. Everything that he has found out.
So this is what the special prosecutor is now responding to. And just a bit of what is contained in the statement before I let you gentlemen come in. So special prosecutor, for instance, says, Your Excellency, the wise and the brave former President John Dramani Mahama, man up, wise up, and be brave enough to come with 2 lawyers of your own choice to be cautioned and interrogated by this office to demonstrate your valor and wisdom as not being elected government official 1, and also as not being the first guarantor to Samuel Adam Mahama's passport application. Now, I'm sure that you two have seen the statement, and so you're familiar with what is contained in it. Start with you, Alhassan Suhuyini. Is the former president going to present himself to the special prosecutor? How do we put closure to this matter?
Mama V, isn't it ridiculous? Isn't it ridiculous? I mean, I'm sure that if you check your old videos, you will know my position on the special prosecutor. I had reservations even approving him as member of the appointments committee. And my reasons were simple. I did not think he was incompetent. Maybe he is, but I did not think he was unqualified because he's been a lawyer of long standing, former attorney, deputy attorney general and all. So his qualification was not, an issue to me. I believed that he was qualified. But I also had reservations because I thought he was being led by unhealthy emotions. He was being led by unhealthy emotions. And those unhealthy emotions, judging from, his past stance on issues, and even the way he appeared during the appointment committee, I believe was going to cloud his judgment and make it risky for anybody that he had personal, issues with. And, it is clear in his work and in his write-ups that he's full of, vendetta. I mean, he's bitter. He's bitter, and it shows in almost every epistle that he writes. And I just will pray and hope that he finds healing somewhere for whatever is worrying him.
When you say he's bitter, who made him bitter? Was it the former president?
Sorry?
Did the former president make him bitter?
Well, I don't think so, because there is nothing to suggest so, that the former president in any way made him bitter. I mean, some people just go through life with their own issues. And sometimes when you become, a victim of their bitterness and vendetta, you may not even be able to explain how and why you became, a target of that,
But we also want closure to this matter. We're tired of the back and forth.
So the point I am making is that we must work to preserve men like former President Mahama, a very tolerant man who has tolerated this man and his, abuses since God knows how long. And many other abuses that people have thrown at him. He's a very, very, tolerant person. And there's no doubt about that. Everybody who has dealt with him, whether in office or out of office, will tell you how tolerant he is and how inclusive his policies have always been. Such people must be preserved. We must not allow, people full of bitterness to push such people to a point where they will have to fight for themselves and perhaps break out of, the nature that we preserve and the nature that we should preserve and use as a model for others to emulate. Look, Mr. Martin Amidu has special powers. That's why he's special prosecutor. Isn't it ridiculous? Isn't it just ridiculous for someone with the powers that he has to now be requesting the former president to voluntarily submit himself and see if he will not interrogate him or not?
Oh, but he's explained the reason he's explained the reason he didn't get into the matter. And if it's not appreciated, then come forward yourself with your $2.
Mama V, isn't it again ridiculous for us to even accept such a reason? So are you saying that if the former president, God forbid, is involved in murder today, because he's leader of a political party, he will not be invited for interrogation? Is that what Martin Amidu and those who think is a reasonable reason are suggesting? I mean, let's not get into the realms of, absurdities. It is clear that the man has no basis whatsoever to invite the former president for any questioning or interrogation. But it serves his political interest to keep this matter afloat so that he can cover up the corruption and nepotism of his friends in government. It is clear that that is what Mr. Martin Amidu is doing. And he is not only desecrating his office, but he is, being unfair to the people of this country who put him there and pay him to fight corruption. When there is corruption all over, when there's corruption all over him and all over his friends, what he chooses to do is to play the political ping pong with former President Mahama. That is simply the new low in our politics. Even for a man like Mr. Martin Amidu, it should be low. He has powers that he can summon anybody to answer questions on. He has those powers. So why is he suggesting that because he's leader of a political party, he cannot do that? I mean, are you saying that if any of the flag bearers, about 12 of them who are fouled, engage in any crime, they will not be questioned in this country? But what kind of logic is that? Then why is he even writing about it? Why does he even want the public to discuss it? It is just a political stick that Mr. Martin Amidu has found to continue his bitterness and vendetta against former President Mahama. But you see, in this world, we may all be born the same day, but our destinies are not the same. And perhaps that is what Mr. Martin Amidu must understand. It was not the fault of President Mahama for him to be, named Professor Mills's running mate, and for him to rise to the office of being vice president and later president, even though Mr. Martin Amidu and others may have been the founding fathers of the party. It is not President Mahama's fault. It is destiny. And so perhaps Mr. Martin Amidu must understand that and let go. And let go.
Andrew Ejapamesa.
He is.
Yes, Mama V, I'm here.
Andrew Ejapamesa, how do we put closure to this?
Well, I guess that I agree to an extent with Al-Hassan when he says that the powers that are vested in the special prosecutor should be one that ought not stop him from proceeding with an investigation against anybody who is found to have infringed the rules of infringed our laws. But I can understand, Mr. Martin Amidu, when you relate the personality of Mr. Mahama with previous instances of political actors or leaders who have been invited by the police on both sides. You recall when Kenny Japan was invited by the police, the mass of political supporters, party people who went there, Sami Jemfi, most recent one, I believe, Kuku Ayudogo, and all that. And so to invite the personality of the former president and the current running mate of the biggest opposition party, like he's explained, may not be prudent under the circumstances at this time. But I strongly believe that crime has no expiry, and it is not in doubt at all. Right from the very day that I read the judgment at both the US and UK courts, who the identity of government official one or individual one, if you like, was. Because it is very clear in the document. And I'm surprised why Mr. Mahama feels pained that Mr. Martin Amidu has linked him with government official one or individual one. Because, Mama B, I'm sure you read the documents. The only elected government official in this country is the president and the vice president. I am elected, but I'm not a government official.
So
I'm
what
a
are
public
you?
officer.
What are you alleging? What are you alleging right now, Andre Japamesa? Because the person who's been mentioned,
the identity of Mr. Mahama being government official one,
but he says he's not government official one.
Why? So is he saying that the Airbus admission is false? This is not only one court judgment. Hold on.
I was just going to remind you that you are a lawyer.
Wait. Please. Yes. That's why I speak the way I speak, because I read the documents. The US court judgment and the UK court judgment. I have not read the one from the French court because I cannot read nor speak French. This was a judgment on admission by Airbus. You read the judgment, it indicates the investigation and the emails. In fact, a line in the judgment says that emails intended for government official one was routed through Adam Mahama as a conduit. What are we talking about? What are we talking about? Indeed, it is reported, and Alassane can deny it or not. Mr. Mahama is reported by Daily Graphic Online as having admitted that he is government official one, but that he did not generate any financial benefit from the transaction. Is it true or not? And that referral was made in the report by Mr. Martin Amidu. So what are we talking about?
Okay. So Andre Japamesa, just
our eyes to tell us that Mr. Mahama is not government official one.
So just hold your thoughts there.
The only elected government official in this country.
See, Mama B,
I just want to ask him something.
It's only one person, Mr. John Mahama.
Okay, Andre Japamesa, just calm down for me. So you have adequate reason to believe that he's government official one. And so what?
And that's why I said that I agree with Al-Hassan that yes, proceed to conduct the investigation. He says he's commenced it, he's issued some warrants, an Interpol red alert. The arrest of the Samuel Adam Mahama has not been effected yet, but it is clear from anybody who has read the judgment, and I have read it, cover to cover. I have read the portion relating to Ghana more than 20 times.
Okay, so just a final
paragraphs 132 down.
So just my final question to you, Andre Japamesa, and I'll come to you, Alassane Suhuyini. So there's enough basis. There's enough basis. Why is he holding on and using an election? What if the former president becomes the next president?
Well, that's why I'm saying that I agree with Alassane to an extent, to the point that Mr. Martin Amidu ought to proceed with this investigation, regardless, because it will be useful for the good people of Ghana to make a determination whether this individual who has been former president who has been indicted in international corruption, the largest globally, and who is offering himself for consideration as president again, is worthy of your vote or not.
Okay, but Andre Japamesa, I just want to remind you that the person that you're referring to has not been indicted. It's government official one that has been indicted. But let me just wrap up on this with you.
They used only a code, but it's an individual. The only elected government official is Mr. John Mahama. Let's not split hairs over this. It's a matter of fact.
Andre Japamesa, let's hear Al-Hassan Sihini.
What are we talking about?
Yes, Lamabi, you see, first of all, it is important for you to understand why the propaganda machinery of this government, as far as corruption allegations against President Mahama, has to be put on full gear at this time. It is because a lot of people who thought that President Akufo-Addo and his government were going to fight corruption have come to the conclusion that corruption has grown wings and has become bigger and more pervasive under this government. In fact, it is no longer just the perception of people or my suggestion or saying so. It is actually the position of the Transparency International that this government's best performance, as far as the fight against corruption is concerned, is worse than the previous government's worst performance. Nana Akufo-Addo's best performance is actually worse than the previous government's worst performance. So the propaganda is catching up with them. And so they just have to rev the machine one more time.
Okay.
Former President Mahama, since after leaving office, has challenged this government on countless number of times to prosecute him, to retrieve all the mansions that they claim he bought in Dubai, all the ships. He has challenged them countless number of times. Now his immunity has kicked in, and so they have very little to do than just do the politics.
Okay.
As for being government official one or not, what my brother has to tell us, so that at least people will respect his law degree and in practice, is what exactly, assuming without admitting, that government official one is indeed, the former president. What in that finding, in that report in the UK, is said to have been done wrong against Ghana and against the laws of Ghana, for which reason we must be splitting heads over this matter.
Okay, let me tell you what was wrong
in Ghana.
Let me tell you what was wrong. It is a matter of fact that Ghana bought aircrafts from Airbus between the period that is being contemplated. It is a matter of fact.
And that was wrong?
Wait, no, nobody has said so. It is a matter of fact that Airbus admitted that they paid bribes and political contributions for the transaction.
To who?
It is a matter of fact.
To who? To who?
Wait. It is a matter of fact that Airbus admitted that. Wait, let me answer your question.
To who? Please, you see, it is easier for you. You just don't make the allegation. You just don't make the allegation and move on. To who?
To have paid bribes to Mr. Mahama's conduit.
Mr. Mahama's conduit,
which is his brother, who was introduced to the transaction.
You see, you are a lawyer and you are proceeding dangerously. Is it said in that report that Mr. Mahama had a conduit?
Yes, that Adam Mahama was introduced to the transaction to serve as a conduit for messages intended for government official one. It's in the paragraph 136.
And by your conclusion,
if you understand the meaning of conduit, which is a passage, and the conduit, the person, you know that I will not stick my neck out to make these comments against the person of the former president.
And you know me well enough. As we engage in this politics, even as we engage in this politics, it is important that we do not sacrifice. also our long-standing practice as professionals. It is very important that we do not sacrifice it on the altar of politics.
I'm making reference to the point.
Well, gentlemen, unfortunately, we will have to end the conversation.
Has challenged this government.
Unfortunately, we have to end our talk here just when it's getting real heated. Member of Parliament for Tamale North and Member of Parliament for 2nd D. Gentlemen, I wish you well in the upcoming fights. Hopefully, we'll get to speak again before the contest. But I really do pray and hope.
And Alhassan, rest assured that the good people of 2nd D are bringing me back to Parliament January 2021. Don't worry at all. I'll see you.
I wish you the very best of luck.
So that's an admission.
In the next Parliament.
That's an admission, Andre Japamesa, that Alhassan Suhuyini is definitely going back to the 8th Parliament.
Oh, I wish that he comes in, yes.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen, for sharing your thoughts.
Only in Parliament. So there ought to be a good balance.
Okay, great. And as you campaign, gentlemen, COVID-19 figures are going up again. So please make sure that you adhere strictly to the protocols and you send the message to your supporters as well.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. We'll do so.
All right, great. We're putting the spotlight on Alhassan Suhuyini's constituency. Coincidentally, we'll tell you the political history of the Tamale North constituency in the northern region. Here's our correspondent, Martina Bugri, with more.
The Tamale North constituency is one of the constituencies in the regional capital Tamale. Created in 2004, the seat has been largely held by the National Democratic Congress. Alhaji Abubakar Sumani was the first member of parliament for that constituency. He retained his seat in 2008 after beating then independent candidate Alhassan Dahmani and 4 other contestants. But Alhaji Sumani wasn't third-time lucky as he lost his bid to Alhassan Dahmani, who was contesting again as an independent candidate. Mr. Dahmani's catchy slogan, "No Dahmani, no vote," caught on with the constituents, who gave him the nod to represent them in parliament, albeit via a slim margin of 694 votes. Then in 2016, the NDC Alhassan Suhuyini emerged. He played to the gallery and won the hearts of the people in an election Christian Alhassan Suhuyini seized the power. Mr. Suhuyini won, emphatically beating his contender, the MPP's Kulsume Mohammed, by more than 5,000 votes. 2016, Suhuyini seized the power. What's the slogan for this year?
Well, this year the slogans are so many, depending on the community that I go to. One slogan or the other is dropped. Yesterday I was at Manaili, and the people said that they are giving me ruler. This year they are replacing the Assisi power with ruler. And it depends on where you go. Others say that I'm the development chief, Tumalana, and all those things. So it depends on the community, but the Assisi power is still very much alive.
4 years later, Alhassan Dahmani has staged a comeback, but this time on the ticket of the NPP, making him Alhassan Suhuyini's closest contender. Incumbent member of parliament, Alhassan Suhuyini believes he has contributed his quota, and with the grace of God, he will win for the 2nd time. He outlined some of the projects he has undertaken.
By the grace of God, even though we did not come into parliament at a time that our government was in power, we have been able to lead a number of interventions in the constituency that we are, I will say, thankful to God for. For example, one of our very rural areas in the constituency, known as Balahe, as a result of my intervention, they are getting a very, modern clinic that is being put up by Kata Charity, an NGO that I approached and requested support from. And I am grateful to the foundation because that is not the only community that is benefiting from their intervention. In fact, it came to me as a shock when they called me one afternoon and announced the projects that they were, going to undertake in my community after I had engaged them for over a year. And the Balahai Clinic is one. They are doing a similar clinic in Ward K. And they are doing 3-unit classroom block in Kalpohini and another 3-unit classroom block in Kambli. They have also provided 3 water, mechanized, boreholes in the communities in Tamale North, Kambli Baumo, Kambli Tunairi, and then Kumani. Now, that is what I want to be the model of a member of parliament lobbying for projects, not only just from central government, but also other well-meaning organizations like non-governmental organizations that are into development works. And I am also very, very thankful not only to Kata Charity, but to other NGOs that have in different ways helped me to impact life in the last 4 years that I have been the MP of this area. One that also comes to mind is Crime Check Foundation. It's also a Ghanaian NGO. They have also helped me to provide a water system, a mechanized well with overhead tank at a community known as Woboguma. It is a community that shared until that well shared their water source, a dam that was constructed somewhere in year 2000 with animals, and it is the only source of water. The dam was the only source of water until this mechanized well was provided by Crime Check Foundation. They have also led a number of interventions. I recall one afternoon when I got a call from them too that they wanted to support widows in my constituency, and they had 3 million Ghana cedis each for 100 widows that I could identify.
Alhassan Suhuyini also talks of the challenges of being able to lobby for projects when your party is not in power, as well as the dynamics of politics in the northern region.
Our politics is very adversarial, and so at every point in time, opposing parties want to outdo each other. And it's also because the higher number of MPs you have in parliament, the easier governance is for you and your party in government. So it is always that adversarial. We want to encroach on each other's territories. And so it is not usually in the interest of the sitting government to help the opposition member of parliament to look good. Because if he does, then it becomes almost impossible for you to win his or her seat. And so it makes it quite difficult for a party, a member of parliament in opposition to be able to, receive support from an opposing party in government. It takes a lot of craftiness sometimes to be able to get government support when you are in opposition. And sometimes because of the adversarial nature, I could have even given you examples of places that I have gone to lobby and have been successful at lobbying. But because it's adversarial, even naming those places makes it problematic for the people in government that have helped you. That's the nature of it, because then their party go after them and criticize them for making it difficult for them to unseat you. Well, having joined politics, I've come to realize that it is quite difficult to place a finger on why people make choices when they go to the ballot box. I mean, for some, it's about development, and even development, it's broken down into different forms. For some, it's about emotions. My conclusion is that it is only through the grace of God that people are elected. It is not really through the effort that one puts in. The effort counts, but at the end of the day, it is the grace, of the Almighty Allah. Because interacting with the people, somebody can decide not to vote for you because you drove past the shop and didn't greet. and didn't stop to greet. And that is enough reason why the person will not vote you. Not because you are not a good representative enough, not because you are not championing what we all assume we know development to be, but just because you drove past the shop and didn't greet, or because he had an occasion or she had an occasion and didn't see you at that occasion, or somebody close to you said something that he found unpleasant or abusive, and for which reason you are not going to be his or her choice. So the reasons why people actually make choices when they go to the ballot box are varied, by my experience in the short period that I have been in politics. So it's quite difficult to pin on something and say, because of this, I'm going to win at all costs. I believe it is hard work, it is doing what you know to be right, it is championing the causes that you believe to be right, but also praying to the Almighty to favor you with grace.
Welcome back on the AM show, and that was a bit of history going down memory lane when it comes to the Tamale North constituency there. Alhassan Sueni giving us some insight into that constituency. But that leads us into our very next conversation, which has to do with the campaigning ahead of election 2020. So we're going to bring you that analysis of the campaign today. And joining us, Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. He's a political scientist with the University of Ghana. Also via Zoom, Dr. Kwesi Amakye-Boateng, political scientist with the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. Before I get to the gentlemen who are joining us, do note you can call 0302-211-691 extension 2 in the course of the program. We'd love to hear from you. Find out what you make of the political campaigning strategies of the various political parties. And maybe you can share your thoughts with us ahead of election 2020, where you think, the votes will go. So on that note, let me say a very good morning to Dr. Kwesi Amakye-Boateng and, of course, Dr. Asah-Asante. Gentlemen, a very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Great. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning to you, my brother.
Great. Thank you. Now, let me start with Dr. Asah-Asante, and I'm going to pose this question to both of you. COVID-19 came, and for the first time in a long while, many countries are holding elections in the midst of a pandemic. How exactly do you feel the political parties have fared in terms of campaigning in the midst of COVID-19? Dr. Asah-Asante, are you there?
Good morning once again. Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Please go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Doc, I can hear you loud and clear. Please go ahead.
First and foremost, you realize that after the passage of the laws regulating the conduct of people with regard to COVID, everything started going on fine until the campaign started. That we are seeing gradually mass rallies, not that much, but they are coming up. And then in recent time, one of the strategies that parties have adopted is health walk. They walk in the streets, holding hand to hand, walk close to each other in disregard for COVID rules. And this has been a worrying situation for you and I, as far as the disease control is concerned. So all in all, I must say that, yes, we started on a good note, but as the jostling went on, you realize that parties have abandoned the rules that they've set regarding these disease, and then now everything has been thrown to the dogs. It's unfortunate because I don't see the point in making rules, and you, the person who have made the rules, will turn around and then throw the rules away just because you want to win power. It is very unfair, and it's not the best for this country, because what is the point of winning power when at the end of the day, when it comes to governance, you come back to meet a society which is unhealthy? That will never be the best for any leader to handle. it is my hope and prayer that the political parties will take a cue from what is happening in other countries and then do the needful so that we will avoid any situation that we will not be able to handle.
Now, Dr. Asah-Asante, are you suggesting by saying that leadership has failed in addressing these matters? Because the political leaders you're referring to, they're out there, and it includes the incumbent government. Are you suggesting then that our political leaders, both in government and outside of government, have failed in this regard?
I am talking about all the political actors in this business. We are seeing party foot soldiers, party candidates who are marching on the streets in the name of health work in a total disregard for COVID rules. We have seen that. And what has come from the government to, as it were, to challenge those people or to right the wrongs. Members of the parties in government are themselves also guilty of this offense. You've seen some of them also taking a cue from what others are doing. And all these things I'm saying that is not the best. The parties themselves are going around this country, nook and cranny of this country to conduct, campaign and in total disregard for the rules. And I'm saying that that is not the best. We have seen it, and all of us are witness to this effect.
Now, Dr. Amoachi Boateng, we're in the midst of a pandemic. It's a totally different ball game, but the parties are campaigning anyway because the elections are going to be held. In your book, how exactly have they fared? Are their strategies working in the midst of COVID-19? Dr. Amoachi Boateng, I hope you heard the question I posed, sir. Well, it appears there may be a bit of a struggle there with Doc's connection.
Well, I'm through, I guess.
Yes, please. So if you...
I'm through now.
Right. The point I was making, now we're in a pandemic.
Well, let me just...
I'm throwing the same question to you about how you feel the parties have fared, conducting their campaigning activities in the midst of a pandemic, and whether their strategies are working.
Thank you for the opportunity, and let me say good morning to your cherished viewers and also to Dr. Asah-Asante, a colleague of mine. Generally, the parties really are boxing on, and I think they're going all out to make sure that they get their messages to the electorates. I mean, the stakes are very high, and COVID or no COVID, they simply coming out, from various angles in the attempt to, reach out to everyone. How have they fared? I mean, they've done their best. Looking at the challenges, you can't help it. COVID really attacks something so close to us, our social needs, the social element in human beings, a basic foundational element, of our existence. But that notwithstanding, we need to move on. Society has got to move on. The parties really, I like to believe, are doing quite well in the way they're campaigning. The challenge is getting everyone to observe, the protocols deployed. But that notwithstanding, I think at the end of the day, they're trying to, manage, the situation. They are doing well in getting their messages out. The manifestos are out. The campaigning going on, electronic, the campaigning through the electronic media, and of course they use face-to-face. The strategy that Dr. Asante talked about, the health work, they're exploring all opportunities to reach out to everyone. I think they are doing quite well.
Now, you are indeed saying that they're doing quite well, but in terms of innovation, in terms of creativeness, would you say that they are meeting the bar? Because campaigning in this period is a bit tricky. Only last night in my neighborhood, there was a political party van blaring after 7 p.m. Maybe strategy in there, but are there other means that can be employed by these political parties in terms of creativity to also forestall any challenges when it comes to dealing with COVID-19?
If I should come in, I'd like to believe that they have explored the various avenues available, social media, the media angles, one-to-one, this health work. What else could they do? They get some people also visits, houses. In the midst of all this, it is possible to maintain the social distances. So I like to believe that they've done their best exploring new strategies. I don't know what you have or what other people think. I'd like to believe that they've gone all out to really reach out, availing themselves of the strategies available.
Let me come to Dr. Asah Asante very briefly before we move on to another tangent. In terms of the creativity or innovation, do you feel there's anything more that the political parties could be doing to forestall any meltdown when it comes to election 2020 on the back of COVID-19?
Yes, I must say that so far in terms of creativity, they've done a lot. We've seen a lot of innovations being employed here. We are in a difficult era, as you rightly pointed out, but we've seen them with a lot of innovations. One, in the area of even non-verbal communication. You've seen gestures, for instance, formal, for Nana, and whatnot. This is a good gesture, that people are following. You don't need to be a scholar or somebody literate to know this. Just the symbol, you are good to go. We have seen the issue of songs coming up, political songs. Research has shown that if you look at songs, it's one of the things that really influence the choices of voters in this country. And the political parties are doing that. NDC has come out with a song, and so is the NPP and some of the other political parties. We have also seen the use of gestures, that they are using gestures and all that. They have also not relent on their effort to use the traditional and the modern media. For instance, radio is on top as one of the vehicles by which the political parties have used to carry out their messages to the electorate. Of course, they have not also relent on the use of television and newspapers as well. We are also seeing effective use of WhatsApp, Facebook, and social media. All in all, we are saying that for the innovation, they've been able to do a whole lot that really attracting the attention of the public. Of course, we have also seen the use of propaganda. Now, you can see the bandwagon effect where let's all rally, then they splash out a lot of pictures on screens of television, letting you to know that, the right-thinking people are in this party. Why don't you join the bandwagon and vote for them? These are very interesting things that we are seeing. But it's my hope and prayer that as they are coming out with these innovative means of campaigning, they'll be able to carry the message that will resonate with the people for us to give them our mandate. That is something that they must consider and consider seriously.
Right, Doc. But even as you hope and pray, here's a matter that we can't just hope and pray about. It's about chiefs endorsing some leaders of political parties. I know in the past you've written on the chieftaincy institution and a lot about it in our country, Ghana. How much of a problem is it for you that there are so many endorsements from chiefs of political party leaders? What do you think we can do to deter this, not just in election 2020, but in subsequent elections?
It is clear that what the chiefs are doing is in direct violation of the law. It is very clear, except that they are doing it. Because if you look at the constitutional provision on that, as to whether chiefs can be in politics, it's very clear that they are not supposed to be in active politics. And if you look at the work of the Constitutional Review Commission, it is also clear by the definition of what constitutes active politics. These are all clear, but they disregard these things. The way forward to this problem is that you can come out with a law that will really put sanction on those who violate the law. That is the best way to deal with the problem. Two, you can also, as it were, make it in such a way that any chief who indulges in this, you publish their names and you let the people to know that they are the leaders that their activities or actions are not welcome. That can be done. And of course, you can also look at a long-term solution to this problem. There is the argument that if you look at some of these chiefs, they have what it takes to be in politics in terms of qualification, in terms of experience. But by virtue of the fact